morning, my friends. Good to have you along. Here we go.
The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
I love the Greg Belfrage show.
I've been listening to you for years, Greg. Thanks for all you do and keeping us informed.
You sound a little taller on radio. Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time. I don't believe in a no-win scenario.
This is
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show, Wednesday, March 26th. Well, the big story this morning, and you just heard this from Fox News Radio, the president issuing an executive order on election integrity yesterday. In other words, he wants a citizenship requirement for voters in federal elections. So you have to then prove that you're a U.S. citizen in order to vote. Now, there are going to be challenges to this. There are absolutely no questions about it. But I'd love to get your thoughts on it. If you're on Facebook, if you follow the Greg Belfrage Show page, I welcome your comments there. If you don't follow the page, I sure wish you would. We would love to have you along. Share a few thoughts with us on Facebook this morning. So the executive order says free, fair, and honest elections unmarred by fraud, errors, or suspicion are fundamental to maintaining our constitutional republic. The right of American citizens to have their votes properly counted and tabulated without illegal dilution is vital to determining the rightful winner of an election. And this goes on at length. So the executive order includes the requirement that only U.S. citizens vote in federal elections. And this is, I think, for a few of us like me, this has been an issue for a long time, thinking that this is very, very important. And you've got some very positive reaction to this. Others who are responding in the way that you would kind of expect in the country today. But we'll talk about this. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. We'll open up the phone lines coming up this morning after 7. And the order goes on to say state governments, under the Constitution, state governments must safeguard American elections in compliance with federal laws that protect Americans' voting rights and guard against dilution by illegal voting, discrimination, fraud, other forms of malfeasance and error. Yet the U.S. has not adequately enforced federal election requirements that, for example, prohibit states from counting ballots received after Election Day or prohibit non-citizens from registering to vote. I'm just blown away by that in areas where you see that happen, where you're not a citizen, you can register to vote. That to me is just, that is the right of citizens, not the right of those living in the country. There's a distinction there, I think, that is missed on a number of folks. And what's the benefit? Oh, we need to be more inclusive. We've got to be more inclusive. We've got to let everybody vote. I think what they're really after is poisoning the elections and rigging it so the Democrats can never lose an election again. So the president signing that executive order, ACLU planning to challenge the order in court. You knew that was coming. That's hardly a surprise, I think. The proof of citizenship. I love this. Not all states require proof of citizenship for voter registration. Again, it depends where you're at. And then states, and this is part of it. And I'll be very curious to know what you think about this. States must count ballots received on Election Day. In other words, you cannot be counting mail-in ballots received after Election Day. That nonsense that's been going on, how many years now has that been going on? It's just getting worse. And I think, which is a good indication that these are just bad ideas. The idea of going and voting on election day, being a citizen, counting the votes on election day versus tabulations that go on then for days and weeks or months. Pretty incredible. So that's one approach. We'll get your thoughts on it coming up this morning. And again, you can drop me an email anytime. I do love hearing from you. Greg.Belfrage@KELO.com is my email address. Greg.Belfrage@KELO.com. And please don't hesitate to drop me a line if you've got time this morning. I'll share those also coming up. And again, I also posted this on Facebook this morning, and I hope to be able to share some of those comments also with you. So we'll get into that coming up after 7 this morning. Also, the president and the reaction to that whole Signal group and what happened with that, with the reporter from the editor of the Atlantic who was part of that. And so yesterday we saw National Security Advisor Mike Waltz take full responsibility for that leak on Signal. And he told Laura Ingraham last night on her program, he said, well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible. There was some reports out there suggesting that it was a staffer of Mike Waltz that had added the Jeffrey Goldberg to the chat. He's from the Atlantic. And Waltz is saying, no, a staffer wasn't responsible. He said, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated. So then Laura Ingraham pressed him on, why was Goldberg's number even on your phone then to begin with? And he said he didn't know. He said, have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name and then you have somebody else's number there? So, of course, I didn't see this loser in the group, he said. He's referring to Goldberg of the Atlantic. So, of course, I didn't see this loser in the group. He said it looked like someone else. Now, whether he did it deliberately or it happened by some other technical means is something we're trying to figure out. And he said the whole thing is embarrassing. And he said that they'll get to the bottom of it. He said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who was lied about the president, who was lying to Gold Star families, lying to their attorneys, gone to the Russia hoax, gone to all kinds of lengths to lie and smear the president of the United States. And he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group. So he's having a difficult time believing. He's taking responsibility, but saying, how is it this guy who winds up in the group? I think that's what a lot of us are asking. He said the claims that Goldberg is making, he said he doesn't believe him. He referred to Goldberg as vile. And Walt said, I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened. But I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation. And he really is the bottom scum of journalists, he said of Goldberg. So this was Mike Waltz on Laura Ingraham's program last night. And he He has no idea how he wound up in that group, and he's taking responsibility for it. So there are a number of different stories on this, and it seems the buck stops with him. I think that's what he's saying. The buck stops with him. Because he's saying, I take full responsibility. I built the group. Now, I saw stories yesterday that were suggesting that it was a staff member of Waltz's that built the group, and he's saying that's not the case. Also, the president did an interview with Newsmax yesterday on this issue. And he said he's very comfortable with the explanation and of Mike Waltz. And yesterday, he was saying, and this was early in the day yesterday. In fact, this maybe toward the end of my program yesterday morning, the president saying of talking about Mike Waltz and just speaking really highly of him and saying he made a mistake and, let's move on. And so the president on Newsmax said the link to Goldberg was on Mike Waltz's team. And he said what it was, we believe, is somebody that was on the line with permission, somebody that was with Mike Waltz, worked for Mike Waltz at a lower level, had, I guess, Goldberg's number or called through the app, and somehow this guy ended up on the call. Now, it wasn't classified as I understand it. There was no classified information. There was no problem, and the attack was a tremendous success. I can only go by what I was told. I wasn't involved in it, but I was told by, and he said, and the other people weren't involved at all. So I feel very comfortable, actually, the president said. So the president was asked, should they be using hard phone lines, hard lines for future meetings instead of Signal? And the president said, well, I like hard lines. But the best way is to be in the situation room or some other room where you're all together, where he said, anytime you have a line, whether it's air or whether it's hard, there's always a risk that people are listening. And the president yesterday, again, standing behind Waltz and saying he learned a lesson. And the president also doesn't like Goldberg. He said, yeah, Goldberg's bad news. It's the Atlantic. It's failing. They made up all sorts of stories about me. Trump said, Goldberg's a loser. His magazine's a big loser. Total Trump. New York Post has got a piece this morning from their editorial board saying, Team Trump will pay a price for whistling past the Signal group chat fiasco, that nothing to see here, and they're saying that is a mistake. So that debate continues. Also, we got Representative Jasmine Crockett out there making all kinds of comments about Texas Governor Greg Abbott, referring to him as Hot Wheels. If you're not familiar with Greg Abbott, he's in a wheelchair following an accident a number of years ago, a tree that had fallen on him, paralyzed him. So she's referring to him as Governor Hot Wheels. And now she's denying that, no, she is just coming up with the lamest excuses. Trying to sell this. It's because, the planes, trains, and automobiles that he's sending illegal immigrants on, in into New York and elsewhere. And so that's why she's calling him Governor Hot Wheels. And of course, nobody believes that. It's an absolutely false. Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott was on Hannity last night, and he talked about this whole thing. He said, it's another day and another disaster by the Democrats. The reality is they have no vision, no policy. They have nothing to sell but hate. I think he's making a really good point here. Abbott is. They got nothing to sell but hatred. And that's what you see from the left. It's just it's seething hatred in a lot of cases. Because, many of us would never, refer to somebody in that kind of demeaning kind of way. But where politics is involved, and if you're in the way of the left, all is fair game. You can refer to folks however you wish. And it's just incredible. So then she claimed, now she's saying, well, she wasn't thinking about the governor's condition. I was thinking about the planes, trains, and automobiles he used to transfer migrants into communities led by black mayors, deliberately stoking tension and fear among the most vulnerable. Again, these were mayors who were in denial of what was going on in the border. The Democrats who were lying, looking you right in the face and lying about what was happening. I mean, she is just more and more absurd. That is, she said, literally, the next line I said is, and forgive the language, I don't speak on the air this way, but this is Jasmine Crockett for you. The next line I said was that he was a hot ass mess, referencing his terrible policies. At no point did I mention or allude to his condition. Governor Hot Wheels? Yeah, I think you pretty much did allude to his condition. I think that's pretty clear. So now it's more lies as she's trying to. So, and then of course, how's the left responding? Oh, they love it. They love what she's doing. People are out there cheering her on. You keep going. And I'm looking at that and wow. That's how you'd react. That's the way you behave. It's just absolutely incredible. So I don't even like talking about this. Be honest with you. I really don't. Because as I was listening to this yesterday, the whole thing's unfolding, and Clay and Buck were talking about it. And then, we're seeing the comments. It's online. It's trending. And I'm just like, why is she relevant to anybody? I mean, why do people grasp onto that kind of stuff? It's just absolutely amazing. And it kind of makes you wonder about how sick the country has become when we're grasping onto things like that. Because to me, it's like, I don't even want to waste my time on it. And we won't waste a lot of time on it this morning. But it is a big story. Also, the president, we were talking recently about funding for South Dakota Public Broadcasting and should taxpayers be funding public broadcasting. Well, now, same thing going on at the national level. The president said he'd like to see PBS and NPR stop receiving taxpayer funding. And so this is, you're going to see sparks flying. It's the House of Representatives has a subcommittee called Delivering on Government Efficiency. And the chair of the subcommittee is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she sent letters to the CEO of NPR and PBS last month, inviting them to testify about what Greene called their blatantly ideological and partisan coverage. And Paula Kerger over at PBS said everything is at stake. This sound familiar? Sounds familiar to the debate we had going on in our state. So that's a big story. The president wanting to see PBS and NPR no longer receiving federal funding. Couple of stories involving the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. She has said that she plans to eliminate FEMA. This was during that televised cabinet meeting on Monday. And she said, simply that they were going to eliminate FEMA, and she didn't elaborate on that. And the president responded, said, "That's great job," he said. The president has been critical of FEMA. He wants to reform, overhaul FEMA, he said, or maybe get rid of FEMA. I think, frankly, FEMA's not good. The president said this just a couple of months ago. And what he has said is he would rather send that money than directly to the states and let, the money that we spend on FEMA, just block grant that money to the states and let them respond to emergencies on the state level. And that's a look at the big stories this morning. Thanks for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show, 627, clear in 27. This hour of our show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
In 6 to 9 p.m., Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires. The give you more tire and automotive store.
First Premier Bank has deep roots in South Dakota. Our lenders have extensive experience in the industry and understand the area's ag economy. They also work to understand your needs and provide the right financial resources and local decision-making to help grow, protect, and transition your operation. It's how we've become one of the nation's strongest community banks. Learn more at firstpremier.com/ag. First Premier Bank, member FDIC.
Save big on everything for your next project when you shop at Menards. Give your walls the best finish possible with Pittsburgh's Paramount Interior Paint and Primer in one. It provides the most advanced protection, excellent scrubbability, and delivers true one-coat coverage. Choose from thousands of color options and refresh your space for spring. View our entire selection of paint products today on Menards.com. Plus, check out the weekly flyer for plenty more great deals happening this week.
Save big money at Menards.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly.
You can't see it, but right here, my boss was in the studio the other day, and I don't know, it was like 1:30 in the afternoon. And oftentimes I leave around 1 p.m. I work about 9 hours a day, 9.5 hours. This day I worked 9.5 hours. I come up here, the boss is in the studio. He's rarely in here in Kelloam. And I see him he's got his hands up here on our screen. And I walk in and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And his hand immediately goes up. Why? I said, what are you doing? He put googly eyes on the monitor. So there's googly eyes up here like somebody's. I'm like, man, you have too much time on your hands. Actually, he works quite hard. He's a prankster. And currently in Sioux Falls at 6:30, clear and 27 at Kello.
Security advisor Michael Waltz takes responsibility for adding a journalist to a group chat about impending airstrikes in Yemen and says he doesn't know how it happened.
I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone.
Waltz on the Ingram angle on Fox. President Trump signs an executive order to change federal election rules.
It requires government-issued proof of U.S. citizenship on voter registration forms. It also calls on states to work with federal agencies to share voter lists and to prosecute election crimes. Plus, it threatens to pull federal funding from states where election officials don't comply.
Fox's Brooke Singman. America's listening to Fox News.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. Police are investigating the death of an infant at an in-home daycare in Sioux Falls. The 4-month-old, who was found not breathing, was taken to the hospital where the child later died. Officials have not released the name of the daycare. Police have not found anything suspicious so far. However, the investigation is still ongoing. Governor Larry Roden signed 20 election-related bills into law yesterday. 2 of those laws will redefine residency for voting requirements and voting on a federal ballot. Roden also issued his second-ever veto by shutting down a bill changing how groups gather signatures for ballot measures. House Bill 1169 would have required ballot measure petitions to receive at least 5% of signatures from each of the 35 Senate districts. Opponents argued it would make South Dakota have the most extreme geographic petition signature requirements in the country. The governor has now signed a total of 177 new bills into law. As numerous grass fires continue to flare up, Minnehaha County has issued a burn ban for rural parts of the county. The burn ban remains in effect until there's significant rainfall in the area. The next phase of construction begins today on Veterans and Arrowhead Parkways in Sioux Falls. City officials say the new intersection will be the largest in South Dakota, 6 lanes wide in each direction. Main detour routes are set to include Sycamore Avenue, Madison Avenue, 6 Mile Road, and 41st Street. The project is scheduled to be complete in the fall of 2026. The South Dakota State Fair has announced rock band All-American Rejects will be taking the grandstand stage this summer. The band is slated to perform Sunday, August 31st. More headliners are set to be announced next week. And in sports, the Minnesota Twins wrapped up spring training with a 5-3 win over the Colorado Rockies yesterday. The Twins had a rough spring training season with a 13-15 record. Minnesota takes on the St. Louis Cardinals on opening day tomorrow. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Mid-60s today in Sioux Falls, increasing clouds with a light wind. A couple of shower chances here as well, east of Sioux Falls this evening. Overnight tonight, we're down to 38. Tomorrow, a little bit warmer, highs in the upper 60s with an east wind at 10 to 20. We're headed for the lower 80s on Friday. Storms Friday night. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens.
The world comes at you pretty fast. We'll help you make sense of it all. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9 and Kello.com.
So often I'm asked, how can I completely opt out of all the data tracking? I'm Kim Commando for NetSuite. Download the free CFO's Guide to Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning today at netsuite.com/Kim. No one can completely vanish. Yes, there are services. Incogni, one of my sponsors, is one of them. They'll remove you from most routine web searches and data broker companies. But you cannot completely erase yourself. Large advertising companies, such as Publicis Groupe, brag that using its core AI platform, they track 91% of all internet users. They know what you watch online and on your TV, everything you buy, where you buy it, online or in person, everything about your social media, medical and legal issues. How? You gave them your permission to track you with so-called free apps you installed, store loyalty programs and the websites that you visit. You are in the advertising databases, and none of us can ever get out of that. Always be tech ahead with my 5-minute read. It's my free newsletter. Sign up at getkim.com. What does the future hold for business? Ask 9 experts and you'll get 10 answers. Rates rising or falling, inflation being up or down. Can someone please invent a crystal ball? Until then, over 41,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth, giving you the visibility and control you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. When you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backward and more time on what's next. And speaking of opportunity, you can now download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/Kim. The guide is free for you at netsuite.com/Kim. That's netsuite.com/Kim. netsuite.com/Kim.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, with 2 locations to make sure you have the proper traction this winter.
Bring charm from the outdoors into your home with Renewal by Andersen Picture and Combination Windows. Optimizing a beautiful view and light in a bedroom, kitchen, or living room from ABC Seamless of Sioux Falls. Call 605-646-2667 today.
That's ABC Seamless.
Only 2 things in life are certain, death and taxes. Well, now there's a third certainty. If you're with Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, you could be saving a fortune every single month if you switch to my cell phone provider, a veteran-owned company called Pure Talk. That's right, Pure Talk, my sponsor, is cutting the fat from the wireless industry. For just $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk and text, 5 gigs of data on America's most dependable 5G network, and the average family of 4 saving over $1,000 a year when they switch to Pure Talk. That's real money in your pocket for the exact same service. And with Pure Talk, you have U.S. customer service representatives. They'll make the switch simple, fast, and free, and easy. So do this. Just dial #250, say the keyword Pure Talk, make the switch, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, #250, say the keyword Pure Talk, and you will start saving today. Pure Talk, wireless by Americans, for Americans.
T-Mobile home internet is all about speed, value.
What you doing, Jack?
First thing, there are so many benefits. You got to talk fast.
T-Mobile home internet ranks #1 in customer satisfaction for home wireless internet by J.D. Power.
Wow, you are good.
Try singing it. T-Mobile has price lock.
They won't raise your rate on internet.
Hulu and Paramount Plus on that.
Get T-Mobile home internet all in for just $55 a month with auto pay and any postpaid voice line.
Conditions terms apply. For JD Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Progressive Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance might be the easiest part of owning a home. Definitely easier than this.
Honey, flash. There's a salesman walking up the driveway.
Oh no, he's got a clipboard.
What do we do?
Get down.
Down?
On the floor, you.
Shoot, did he see us?
Why are you breathing so loud?
Home ownership isn't easy, but with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer, shopping for home insurance is. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Texting privacy policy, terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting rules for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message data rates may apply. Reply stop. Consult a doctor prior to use.
Looking to get doctor-prescribed medication like Ozempic or Wegovy? Zelfie can help you get GLP-1 medications affordably, whether you have insurance and even if you don't, and 100% online. It's simple. Just text coverage to 200-300 to get started. Zelfie can help you get Ozempic, Wegovy, or covered by your insurance company, so you pay as little as $0 for the medication if prescribed. No insurance? No problem. Zelfie can ship semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and Zepbound, for as little as $151 a month versus $1,000 plus for name brand medications. Either way, it's high quality medical care, weight loss coaching, and access to game-changing medications, all 100% online with Zelfie and affordable with or without insurance. So don't wait. Text coverage to 200-300 to get started today on your weight loss journey with Zelfie. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text coverage to 200-300. That's coverage to 200-300. Text coverage to 200-300.
On Kello Radio, you always get entertaining talk and news when it happens. And at Kello.com, there's even more, like local stories and podcasts that make life in South Dakota even better. So it's Kello Radio for what you need to know, and Kello.com for what you want to know even more. Kello News Talk 13.
20 minutes before 7, clear, and 27 currently at Kello. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. Hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
The top trending story this morning is that Signal chat that took place, the encrypted messaging app Signal being used by U.S. officials. And so the Senate looking into it, this was the Senate Intelligence Committee that was holding hearings on this yesterday. And Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard said classified information was not revealed in that group chat. And she was being questioned by Senator Mark Warner. And Warner he was quite upset. Democrats were quite upset. But Gabbard was on the group chat. Took place about 2 hours before the actual strike. However, she declined to say at the hearing whether she had participated. She said no classified information was revealed. She also declined when asked by Senator Warner to release at least some of the exchanges. And he said, you can't have it both ways, he told her. So it was editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, who sent out a news report on Monday saying that he was invited to join the chat and so on. And again, I don't want to get too far afield. Is that the way that you would have responded if somebody mistakenly included you in the chat and you knew you were not to be? And he's saying he understood fairly quickly that he should not be involved in the chat. So he left the group. Wouldn't you bring that to somebody's attention rather than running to write an article about it and to respond? And I mean, I would want to bring that to somebody's attention personally, unless, of course, it was all by design. I mean, those are questions I'm asking myself. Also, Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas, referring to Governor Greg Abbott as Governor Hot Wheels. If you're not familiar with Greg Abbott, he is in a wheelchair. And she said, and forgive the language, just the way Jasmine Crockett talks, we in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. The only thing hot about him is that he's a hot-ass mess, honey. Yes, yes, yes. Applause. Abbott is paralyzed from the waist down. When he was in law school, he was out on a run. This is in 1984. When an oak tree snapped and fell on him, broke his back. He had some other injuries, some of his internal organs damaged as a result of this. And she's out there calling him Governor Hot Wheels. Also, Pam Bondi has issued a warning. This was on Monday to Representative Jasmine Crockett. Bondi said she's threatening lives with her rhetoric against Elon Musk, with these left-wing activists that have been targeting Tesla dealerships. So Bondi was on Sean Hannity's program on Monday night, and she was commenting on Crockett's comments. Bondi said after she said that about Elon, she said, well, I didn't mean violence. But however, your words have consequences. And what happened after she said that about Elon Musk? She's a Texan in her own home state. After she said that this morning, 3 explosive devices were found in Austin, Texas. So she needs to unequivocally denounce the violence. She must apologize immediately. Now, you understand these things will never happen. And I think Pam Bondi knows this too. These things These things will never happen. It just won't. She needs to unequivocally denounce the violence. She must apologize immediately, not only to all Texans, but to our country. Now, you know what they do? You're telling them you must apologize. You know what they do? Oh, they double down. They just double down, and that's what Jasmine Crockett is doing. And she's loving the limelight. She's loving the attention. Suddenly, her name is all over the country. More outrageous she gets. And again, for me, left to my own devices, I couldn't care, about her. It's just, and then her comments about Senator Cruz, what she had said about Senator Cruz. So Bondi said, I believe she probably will be censured by Congress for saying that. People don't learn. She's using her public persona, her public platform, to increase her followers, to increase her significance. She is threatening lives, safety. When she did this at Tesla, people's lives are in danger. This is America. We're in a free country, and she's yet encouraging this violence in her country. Think of all the lives that could have been jeopardized in Texas just today by her words and what she's done. But she didn't stop with that. She continued on with Senator Cruz. She has to apologize immediately and denounce the violence. And she said, she's calling for further insurrection, so on, and saying that Crockett needs to tread very carefully. Bondi saying it's interesting that these people wrap themselves in the First Amendment, but they hate Elon Musk because he's practicing the First Amendment. But again, words have consequences. She does need to tread very carefully. We don't know what else she's saying, what else she's doing, but she needs to immediately apologize and denounce this, because even in her home state, violence is happening after she made these statements. It's dangerous. She has to know it's dangerous, and she's calling for further insurrection on her birthday this weekend. Yeah. That story was trending yesterday. Also trending this morning, let's leave Jasmine Crockett behind us now here this morning. Comedian Bill Maher will be meeting with the president at the White House. And he said that this was on, he was doing an interview on his Club Random podcast. And Maher says, Kid Rock was here a couple of weeks ago. And he said, I want you to meet Trump. I'm going to take you to the White House. So now we're going to do that, he said. And he said there will be lots of people on the left who will be like, how dare you talk to this man? And he said, like, yeah, he dropped the F-bomb. I'm not playing this game that you mean girls play, where you're like, you can't sit at my lunch table because I'm not talking to you. Not talking to you? You lost the election. Who the blank do you think you have to talk to? He said it's one thing if you win it. It's another thing if you lose it. And he mentioned how a change has happened in the Democratic Party. Certain figureheads like California Governor Gavin Newsom, others now have moderated by courting voices on the right in a spirit of conversation. And Maher says, we got to get more of this going. This has to become the center. This has to become a real center. It's a few lonely islands that need to become a bigger sandbar. Oh, Bill Maher, excuse me, will be visiting with Donald Trump at the White House. Kid Rock taking him. Also, the president this week pardoning Hunter Biden's former business associate, Devon Archer. The president did this actually yesterday. And he said, ahead of signing the pardon, he said, many people have asked me to do this. They think he was treated very unfairly. And I looked at the records, studied the records, and he was a victim of a crime as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to undo that. Congratulations, Devon. So remember, Devon Archer was a former business associate of Hunter Biden at Burisma, and he has been very forthcoming about what was going on and the Biden's role, not only Hunter Biden's, but Joe Biden's role with Burisma. Also, President Trump planning to freeze federal grants to Planned Parenthood, worth about $120 million this year. Wall Street Journal reported this yesterday. Cited several anonymous people saying they're familiar with the move. Wall Street Journal said the money would be held while the administration reviews whether any of the funds were used in DEI efforts. And so that may be announced within days, but that Wall Street Journal report trending this morning. Also, delegations from Russia and Ukraine yesterday agreed to a ceasefire in the Black Sea. This was following talks with the Trump administration in Saudi Arabia this week. And so the White House in a statement said they have agreed to ensure safe navigation, eliminate the use of force, and prevent the use of commercial vessels for military purposes in the Black Sea, the White House said. And then moments after that, the defense minister in Ukraine confirmed all parties have agreed to ensure safe navigation, eliminate the use of force, and prevent the use of commercial vessels for military purposes in the Black Sea. There's a story regarding the Pope. As you know, the Pope was just released from the hospital back at the Vatican, still resting. And now we're learning that doctors taking care of Pope Francis considered ending their treatment at one point, according to a report, because they thought that he wasn't going to make it. And that definitely was the way it was sounding based on media reports that I was seeing. So one of the doctors talking about how the Pope suffered a coughing fit and inhaled vomit, which prompted staff then to have to clear his airways and put him on a ventilation mask. And the doctor saying that for the first time, I saw tears in the eyes of some of the people around him, people who I understood during this period of hospitalization sincerely love him like a father. We were all aware that the situation had worsened further and that there was a risk that he would not make it. So we had to choose whether to stop or choose whether to stop and let him go or force it and try with all the drugs and therapies possible, running a high risk then of damaging other organs. And in the end, that was the path that they took. So they had considered ending his treatment and letting him go. Also, the FBI has formed a task force to investigate the anti-Tesla attacks. They're calling it domestic terrorism. There are a number of stories, New York Post, The Verge, number of other places reporting on this. FBI has received reports of 48 instances so far this month related to Tesla vehicles, dealerships, and charging stations. And so now they're investigating them with local law enforcement. And the FBI formed a new 10-person task force that will deploy ATF personnel as well as personnel from the FBI's counterterrorism division. So they're taking steps to investigate what's going on. President Trump says he plans to host the Kansas City Chiefs at the White House to celebrate their Super Bowl victory 5 years ago. You remember we were in the midst of COVID-19 at the time. And so they weren't able to, the Kansas City Chiefs were not able to come to the White House then because of COVID-19. The president now saying the team will finally be able to pose with pictures in the White House. And he said on, I think that, or he told, this is a conversation with Clay Travis. And the president said, I look forward to having the Eagles. And one other thing, we're going to have the Kansas City Chiefs after that because they missed their turn because of COVID. He told Clay Travis. Also, U.S. consumer confidence continued its sharp decline this year. Americans' views about their financial futures slumping to a 12-year low, according to reports. And that is largely then being, there's a lot of anxiety over tariffs and inflation. And that's a look at the stories that are trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. 6:57, clear skies and 27 at Kello. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Well, thank you, my friend, for letting me join you this morning. Please come back at 9:30 for the fourth hour or catch it at your convenience today. So, signing off until then. See you again later.
They can be easily switched out. It features